What can you expect from your first weightlifting competition? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Brian from Big Ben Strength, and in this video, I'm going to explain everything that you need to know about your first weightlifting competition. We're going to walk you through everything from checking in on the day of to how to choose your attempt. Today, I've got Cade Johnson. He is going to be competing today. We're going to be using a lot of his lifts as an example. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so for today, the check-in time, the weigh-in time was 9:30. So that means that he's going to go in, check in at around 9:30, get his card, which is where he's going to declare his openers and what the person running the competition is going to weigh him in and put his body weight down on the card. So when you weigh in, you're expected to give your opening snatch and your opening clean and jerk in kilos. So for today, what are your openers?
So as of now, my opener for the snatch is 120 and my opener for the clean and jerk is 140.
And for those speaking freedom units, that's 264 pounds in the snatch, and then 308 pounds in the clean and jerk. So when you declare your openers, you can also move them up after you declare them. And most people actually will do that as a strategy in competition to be able to kind of mess with the other people that are competing. So let's say that you declare 120, 140, you can actually bump your openers up to 130, 150 if you wanted to. You have to stay within a 20 kilo window. You can bump those openers up, and the people that are planning on your lifts in their warm-ups were now suddenly messed up, and they may have to go sooner than they're ready for, which gives you a competitive advantage. After you weigh in at 9:30, you give them your openers, which you kind of maybe want to fudge the numbers a little bit lower than you normally would. Then you have 2 hours until you are called on stage. Everybody in your session will be called on stage and introduced. This is called introductions. And at this point, they're just going to call everybody's names out, and then everybody will walk back to the warm-up area. There's going to be a 10-minute clock, and then the first person will lift. In competition, the first person to lift is the person with the lowest weight first. The main rule of competition in weightlifting is that the lightest barbell starts first, and the weight never goes down on the barbell. So a little bit different than powerlifting. You're familiar with that, where you'll declare your opener and your order stays the same throughout the competition. You're going to do your bench 1 in the same order, and then your bench 2 in the same order, and then bench 3 in the same order, all in that order. In weightlifting competition, it's a little bit more of a chess match. The attempts that you choose will dictate the order that you go in. So if you go 120 and the heaviest person behind you is opening at 90 kilos, then you could pretty much count on the fact that all of your snatches are going to be back-to-back by yourself. So you may need to plan for that in your training to be able to make lifts with a 2-minute clock. Another thing to keep in mind if you're not familiar with the weightlifting meet, but snatches will go first. You'll hit all 3 of your snatches before all 3 of your clean and jerks. So knowing that snatch and clean and jerk that's the order that you're going to go in, we have to then think about what are our warm-ups. So you declare your first attempt or your supposed first attempt, and then from there we got to plan your warm-ups for what you're actually going to hit on a competition floor. If you are opening at 30 kilos and you're the first person to lift, then you're probably going to spend that 10-minute break from introductions to the first lift warming up to your maybe 28 kilos on the snatch, or maybe you'll hit 30 because you want to feel that and know that you can hit it before you go on platform. Say you're opening at 120, which is likely to be probably the last snatch attempt, the last person lifting, then you might not touch your warm-ups until maybe halfway through the people that are lifting on the platform. So maybe you don't start warming up until the first person is actually out. You take that 10-minute break, you're still resting. You're still waiting. I always say that a weightlifting meet is a lot more waiting than it is lifting. Now, knowing your attempts gives you an advantage in knowing what your warm-ups are going to be. Because you get to declare what you're going to lift, you get to plan your warm-ups out accordingly. So for us today, he's opening at 120 on the snatch. We can work backwards from that. So we know that the last lift that he's going to hit in the warm-up is probably about 115 kilos, maybe a little bit heavier if we need to really make sure that we're going to hit those numbers. But probably 115. Then before that, 110. And maybe before that, we start going 10 kilo jumps, 100, 90, 80, 70, 50, something along those lines. And then we're going to time those out to make sure that he is feeling appropriately warm but not overly fatigued, so we don't want to hit all those lifts back to back. What I like to do for most people is every 3 attempts on the competition platform, we take an attempt in the back room. So we call that going on drops, meaning that we're going to take 50 kilos for one snatch, on the next drop, meaning after the person on the competition platform is done lifting with that current lift, You hear the barbell drop, that's when you go for your next lift. We're going to wait 3 more drops, and then you'll take your next lift. And this allows us to plan not by minutes, because the time between your attempts is variable. It's not the same for everybody. If somebody is following themselves, they have a 2-minute clock. But if somebody is back to back with another person, they get a 1-minute clock. So it could be different from person to person. So as opposed to having a timed warm-up, we go based off what is actually happening in competition right now. So once the last snatch is completed by the last person in your group, in your session, there's usually a 10-minute clock at most competitions. Some local competitions may take that into their own judgment if they're running behind on their schedule, and may make that a 5-minute clock. It's always a struggle when you find out that you have a 5 instead of a 10, especially if you're opening up a little earlier in the session. But have that 10-minute clock, then we'll start warming up for clean and jerks. And the warm-up process is generally the same for the clean and jerks as it is for the snatch. We're going to take your warm-up attempts, maybe 10 kilo jumps up to a certain degree, and then 5 kilo jumps after that. And you know what your first attempt is going to be, so you keep an eye on the other people that are competing and plan your attempts accordingly. If you see somebody who has not started warming up yet at all, and they have their opener listed at 90 kilos, they haven't started warming up yet, you could probably expect that they're going to bump that opener up a little bit. So knowing the rules of the competition allow you to keep an eye on everybody and see what chess match they're playing, so that you can play your chess match accordingly. So every competition is a little bit different. If you're competing at the national level, you can get medals for the snatch, for the clean and jerk, and for the total. And the overall winner is based on the total in your weight class and age division. At the local level, it's a little bit different from competition to competition. For this one, they're giving out an award for overall winner by Sinclair, which is an old formula that is used to basically dictate how strong you are for your body weight. So as opposed to having to have medals for every single weight class, which is a pretty expensive competition to have to run, we'll give out medals based on Sinclair overall. So we want to, in these competitions, they're going to award who is the best pound for pound lifter, which does kind of incentivize the lighter lifters, and the heavier lifters tend to have a hard time with Sinclair, but it is still doable to win by Sinclair at the heavier weight classes. For this competition, we're aiming to win the Sinclair on this and the total in his weight class and division. We don't really have any qualifying totals that we're trying to hit at this meet, because the senior nationals qualifying total may be a little bit out of reach right now. But if you are trying to qualify for a competition, you may plan out your attempts to hit a certain total. So for today, we're just going off, how close can we get to PRs? How close, what do we need to win? And states, right?
Yeah,
so
states.
Yeah, so if you haven't done a competition before, then really we just need to hit the minimum total for states. For Cade today, states is a very doable total to hit. It's nothing. That's a
opener.
That's a openers you've already qualified, right? But for nationals, it's way up there. So, we may not be reaching those totals today, which gives us a little bit more freedom on what our second and third attempts are going to be. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about how a competition is going to flow. We're going to kind of add in some stuff. We're going to show the lifts that Cade hits. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we chose certain attempts and how we warm up, and then we'll kind of recap at the end about how it went. All right, so that wrapped up the competition. It was a fucking great competition. We were over at the ARC School of Fitness, Gator Weightlifting Club. Mike runs that. It was a very well-run meet. On the snatch, we went 120, 125, 130, which was 264, 275, 286 was our last made attempt. 3 for 3 on the snatch. And then clean and jerk, we went 150, so it was a 330 pounds opener. Cleans were looking a little tough. Jerks were looking real solid today. So when we were doing those, you may normally kind of take like 5 kilo jumps. We went 4 kilo jumps. Played a little bit conservative, but still ended up in a good spot. So we went 150, 154, which was 340 pounds, and then 159, which was 350.5 pounds, which was a 1.5 PR for Cade. And he crushed it. And so one overall on the men's side, won a little bit of cash. Right. That's right. We got a medal. We got a sick trophy too. So just like imagine this, but this gator is holding a little trophy too. So we got this little trophy boy over here. I want some gift cards to Rogue, I think. $50. So very well run meet from Mike and the ARC. Yeah, appreciate it. And everybody there was. It was a great environment, so it was really cool. And hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of a look into what a weightlifting meet is going to be like. So yeah, that's everything for this video, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.